programs are delivered through this perspective and take a more humanistic approach. So the classes we offer at Sofia not only enable students to study their passion, but teaches them how to improve communication and interpersonal skills. We encourage students to learn more about the courses they'll be taking via our online catalog. Again, you can go to our website and search for academic catalog and kind of take a look at all the course curriculums there. So these are our different programs. So we have 3 main programs that are, eligible to F1 students. First, our 2 master's programs. So our MBA program. Here you're going to discuss topics in finance, operations, marketing, consumer psychology, and technology innovation. All these programs are eligible for CPT and OPT. We do have a handful of concentrations in the MBA program. Our business data analytics concentration is STEM approved. Otherwise, the regular MBA track program is not STEM approved. Our Master of Science in Computer Science is a STEM program. So in this program, you'll cover topics in data science, machine learning, software engineering, cybersecurity, and data visualization. Again, eligible for CPT and OPT as well. And then at the doctorate level, we do have a business administration program. It focuses on business challenges, organizational psychology, project implementation, and leadership. There's a strong focus on leadership in this program and research. There is a business integration practicum. It's similar to a CPT. So these are kind of the 3 options. They all have residency classes. It is a residential program, so you'll be in person for some of the time. These are costs of the program. So our regular track MBA program is $24,000. If you add a concentration, it's going to be $32,000 because you would add an additional 12 units. Our MSCS program is $24,000 as well. And then the DBA program is $51,300. There are some associated fees. I recommend going to our website and looking at the tuition and fee chart. So some fees during the admissions process is the application fee, which is $75, and the acceptance fee, if you're admitted, is $200. There's also the I-20 processing fee, that is $100. The WIL course or the CPT course is $500, and there's also a quarterly technology fee, which is $290 to keep in mind. But definitely go to our website and research these different tuition and fees. So these are different departments. So if you're admitted into the program, you'll kind of go through the pipeline and work with our various different departments. So after being admitted by the admissions, you would work with our International Student Office. They provide advice on F1 regulations, SEVIS record transfer, CPT, OPT, and matters relating to your F1 status. Once your SEVIS record is transferred to Sofia, you would work with the registrar department on the enrollment agreement and registration. The student service department updates students on important dates, orientation meetings, holidays, info session, and other events. Our business office assists with billing, tuition payments, payment plans, and other financial related questions. Our library is there. It sets students up for access to our online resources and databases. And if you have any IT issues, you can always reach out to our IT department at helpdesk@sofia.edu. They're always available to help with any troubleshooting. The application process. So the applicant starts, you want to go to sofia.edu. There's an apply now button that will take you to our application portal. You can submit that online application. And then once you do apply, you will get instructions to the online portal where you can upload your documents. You'll be assigned to an admissions counselor and we'll follow up with you regarding the next steps. So it's a very handheld process. You can upload all your documents to the portal. And then if accepted, you want to follow the instructions on your email to activate your official student account. Then after that point, you can work with our international student office and then again our registrar office after that point. So for admissions, these are some of the general admission requirements. We do require that online application. We need official transcripts from your previous university. If your previous university was outside the US, we would require a foreign transcript evaluation as well. We need a statement of purpose, should be about 750 word minimum. We want to hear more about your background and your personal and professional goals. A GPA of 3.0 or higher is required. If you do have a GPA lower than that, we would require an additional letter of recommendation during the admissions process as well. And then a copy of your passport, and then an English proficiency if applicable. If you do have a degree in the US, we would not require the English test. But yeah, those are kind of the basic requirements. Again, an admissions counselor will kind of reach out to you with the checklist and those next steps. I'm going to hand it over to Ranali at this point.
Thank you so much, Liz, for that great overview of our programs and the entire application process. So once you've selected your program and you've applied, and if you get an acceptance letter, at that point you'll be working with the International Student Office to receive your I-20 or instructions for transferring your I-20. So if you are a current F1 student and you've just completed a program or you're just completing your OPT, you are eligible to transfer your SEVIS record to Sofia. We will need copies of your most recent I-20, your F1 visa. Even if it's expired, we need to see a copy of it. Your most recent I-94. Your I-94 should indicate that you've been admitted to the US for your duration of status. If you are on OPT, we want to see a copy of your EAD. If you have any pending applications with USCIS, we would need to see a copy of the I-797A. And then we need your financial documents. So all F1 students are required to provide evidence that they are able to pay for at least one academic year in their program. And then we have you complete an I-20 request form. So this is just an overview of what the entire process looks like. Once you pay your acceptance fee, you would be activating your Sofia email and then upload those I-20 documents that we discussed. Then you go on to schedule your SEVIS transfer. If you're applying for CPT, you would do that next. And then once your SEVIS transfer is scheduled, we'll be sending you your enrollment packet. And then when you've reviewed and signed that, you would be registered for your courses. So we do send all our accepted students a copy of this enrollment guide, and we recommend that you just follow that step by step. So the process I discussed previously was for transfer students. If you are a new international student and you're currently abroad, the process looks a little different. You would need to first pay your I-901 SEVIS fee, submit your DS-160 application online, and then schedule a visa interview. We will assist any students who need help with preparing for the visa interview. You can schedule an appointment with us. And then if the visa is approved, we'll help you with pre-arrival procedures. If you are a student who's in the US looking to apply for a change of status, you go through a different process. So you have to pay your I-901 SEVIS fee, and then you would need to submit your I-539 application to USCIS to change your status to F1. So again, our office will assist you with this process. For both new international students who arrive from abroad, as well as change of status students, you do need to complete at least 3/4 of full-time study in the US to be eligible for CPT. Now for transfer students, once you have submitted all your documents, we will give you the SEVIS school code. So you can take that SEVIS school code along with your acceptance letter to your current school and then schedule your SEVIS transfer. We do want all students to be mindful that their SEVIS records need to be transferred in active status. So that means you need to ensure that you transfer it to us either during your grace period or, if If you're still enrolled as a student, you need to be enrolled full-time until the transfer out date. So we ask students to be very mindful of their I-20 expiration date. We also want students to be aware that any previously authorized CPT or OPT will be immediately terminated on the SEVIS transfer release date. And then we also ask our students who are on STEM OPT to make sure they submit that I-93 final evaluation with their previous school before the transfer out date. So as Liz mentioned, many of our programs that are offered for F1 students, including our MBA and MSCS, as well as our DBA, offer curricular practical training opportunities. So for the MBA and MSCS, there is a work integrated learning course, which is a requirement for graduation. And in order to fulfill the requirements of this work integrated learning course, students will need to find a practical training experience that is directly related to that program. Similarly, our DBA has a business integration practicum, which ties into some of the final research projects that also requires practical experience. Now, F1 students are not authorized to work unless they have specific CPT or OPT approvals. So for students who are enrolled in these programs and need to take the work integrated learning or business integration practicum courses, we will approve CPT if you meet these specific requirements. So how does the CPT application work? Once you are accepted and you have submitted all your I-20 documents, we would need you to submit a job offer letter, which has a specific job title and a detailed job description. So your academic advisors will be reviewing this to confirm that it's directly related to your program. And then we also need you to complete an internship application form. So those documents will be reviewed and approved by your academic advisors. And then once you have completed your SEVIS transfer, we will approve the CPT so that you can participate in those courses. And again, the enrollment in those courses will take place automatically by the Office of the Registrar. While you are engaged in CPT, you must actively participate in all your courses, including your WIL or BIP course. So remember that CPT is approved for specific dates, so be very mindful of the dates of approval on your I-20 and make sure you do not work outside that range. So we want all our F1 students to have a successful academic journey. And so we want you to be aware of some important obligations on your part. So the most important obligation for any F1 student is to maintain full-time enrollment. Your F1 status is for you to attain a specific educational goal, and you need to be enrolled full-time every quarter. So the definition of full-time enrollment will differ from master's and doctorate programs. For our master's programs, it is a minimum of 6 credits per quarter. For the DBA, it can range from 4 to 5 credits. So at least you will be taking a minimum of 4 credits each quarter. And only one of these courses can be fully online. The other courses will have residential classes. So please make sure you are, actively participating in your residential classes. And then please make sure you notify DSO if you're traveling abroad, you have a change in address, or any change of your visa status. And then make sure you reach out to us if you need an extension to your I-20 end date. And then we also recommend that you keep a close eye on your passport expiration date and get that renewed well in advance. So we do get a lot of questions from students about change of status in terms of what happens if you are on an F1 status and you change to a different status. So if you do change to a different status during your program, you can continue with your program. Many other types of non-immigrant statuses, including H-1B and O, are permitted to study and complete their program. So these are specifically the H-1B and O visa statuses are sponsored by your employer. So you would need to work with your employer on, that entire process. However, sometimes during a change of status process, USCIS may issue an RFE or request for evidence, which may ask for documents that are related to your F1 status. So that is, it happens maybe 10% of the time. It certainly doesn't happen for every case, but it can happen. So if that does happen, we ask that you send us a copy of that RFE, and then we will help you with collecting the documents that are requested by USCIS. So usually these documents would be confirmation that you validly maintained your F1 status while at Sofia. So we can provide copies of your transcript, your I-20, your attendance records, your Canvas course syllabi, as well as, details of the courses and definitions from our academic catalog to explain that you did maintain your status full-time while you were at Sofia. And then USCIS may also ask for evidence pertaining to previous CPT or OPT authorizations. So we do maintain records of all of your CPT applications and offer letters, and so we're happy to provide you with copies of that. And again, we can provide you with copies of excerpts from our academic catalog explaining the work integrated learning course and how it is a requirement for degree completion. Um, so for students who are looking to join us for the spring quarter, these are some important dates and deadlines. The application deadline is March 17th. We strongly recommend early applications, especially if you are an F1 student. There are several additional processes to complete. So we really recommend that you try and get that application in as soon as possible. If you are a SEVIS transfer student, the transfer deadline is March 31st. We have our orientation on April 2nd, and then term starts on April 7th. So thank you so much for joining our session. We have some helpful resources linked here. We have our International Student Handbook with lots of information. And then we also have our academic catalog and some other resources for F1 students. So we really appreciate your interest in Sofia, and we really hope that we'll be seeing many of you in our spring 2025 orientation. So that's our contact information. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Ranali and Elizabeth. I'm going to go ahead and move over to our QA session. I know Elizabeth has been answering some questions in the chat. We also got some here that we're just going to go over since we're now in the second half of our webinar. So either of you, Elizabeth or Ranali, feel free to answer this. If there's something really quick that I think maybe we already covered or I can handle, then I can maybe just save you guys that. So for the first question, when does the fall term start? And can I start earlier if I need to? I think this was answered in the chat, but did you just want to go over it again?
Yeah, I did answer this in the chat, but it does start September 29th. So we do work on the quarter system. So we are accepting applications for spring 2025. We also have summer, and then fall starts September 29th.
Okay, thank you for that. And yeah, and for students, yeah, if they wanted to start earlier, then they would start in a previous quarter, right?
Yes. Yeah, they have the opportunity to start earlier if they need to.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and so students also, I'm sure that everyone's like, considering different options right now. My general advice to students is to at least just start getting some applications in if you're like kind of interested in. If the date comes around and you don't have your paperwork filled out or you don't have your CPT like application run like filled out, that could cause problems for you later. So even though these dates might seem further away from us now, it never hurts to get an application in early. That'd be my advice. Next question, how many years of working experience are needed to apply for the DBA?
You don't particularly need work experience. You do need a master's degree. That's required. I mean, we typically like to see, working professionals, higher level, even like executives, but the work experience is not a requirement for the admissions process. So as long as you hold a master's degree and you have that ambition, we could definitely consider you for that program.
Got it. Thank you. So next question, lots of rumors are circulating online about SEVP shutting down programs because of their I-17 review. Is there any issue with that at Sofia?
So no, we are SEVP approved and our certification is valid and we have not had any issues with SEVP.
Oops, I accidentally muted you at the end while trying to unmute myself. So yeah, no, we definitely want to hear that. Yeah, because that's really important. So SCVP, no issues so far, so students wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right.
So this next question, Q4, question 4, I'm on H4 visa and don't have a degree from a US school. So from what I'm understanding from what we just went over in the presentation, so change if you're changing your status to F1, you can enroll in the you can apply and enroll in the program, but you would need to take 3 quarters at Sofia before getting CPT.
Correct.
Um,
The 3/4 is 1 academic year. Yeah.
one academic year. Okay, great. Yeah, and which is not like only the case at Sofia. This is the case at other schools as well. What is the I-20 deposit fee?
So there is a one-time I-20 processing fee that you pay at the start of the program, and that is, to receive your first I-20 because, we do some extensive verifications. And then, that's we're responsible for maintaining your account throughout your program. So that's a one-time fee you pay to Sofia, which is different to the I-901 SEVIS fee, which you pay to the Department of State.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so there'll be some I-20 fee that goes to Sofia and one that goes to the Department of
Yeah.
State. Next one would be what do career support services look like at Sofia?
Yeah, we do have a career resource center. They do have quarterly like info sessions and webinars for students. They do some great um, webinars on LinkedIn and preparing your resume and preparing for an interview. Yeah, so we definitely have career support at Sophia.
Perfect, thank you. Next question, can a student change their major, or I'll just add in, can they change their major, start date, or maybe campus that they're attending after they've been accepted?
So F1 students can change their major. They would need to go through approval. It would need to be approved by the new program chair. So yes, it is possible. They can also change campuses. So if they change their address, they would need to report that to DSO. And then if that address change warrants a change of campus, for example, if they move closer to from the Palo Alto campus, they move closer to the Costa Mesa campus, we can change the campus as well. Now, they cannot change their start date because once you start the program, you do have to continuously enroll full-time to maintain your status.
Got it. I think maybe my question about the start date was like maybe if you've like if you apply for fall and then you want to defer this to winter. Is
Right,
that possible?
absolutely. So if you have not already started, there may still be the possibility that you can defer. It would depend on, your transfer eligibility because CVIS transfers can only happen at a specified time.
Okay.
Um, and then if you are a change of status student, it would depend on when USCIS approves your change of status.
Okay, so just all like assuming that your like other immigration, like your visa stuff or your CVIS status like is maintained correctly, then it's a possibility, but that has to be handled separately. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then next question, can students apply and enroll even without like a job or can they come in without CPT?
Yes, absolutely. So this is an academic program. And so, yes, you can start. The CPT, like the practical training experience is a requirement, but you can complete that requirement later on in your program.
Okay, thank you. So I think this question also got answered for, is it possible for some courses to be replaced from the MBA program with courses through another program?
Um, so I'm not sure if this question is referring to concurrent enrollment, like if you're asking if you can be enrolled at Sophia
Mm.
and another SCVP institute, sometimes that is possible. But if you're asking whether courses can be substituted within the program,
Mhm.
No, it cannot. We have specified degree requirements in the academic catalog. Now, it is possible to transfer credits. There is a certain limit of credits that can be transferred.
Okay, thank you. The next question, what kind of RFE support does Sophia provide?
Yeah, so if a student receives an RFE, we ask that they send us a copy of it, and then within 3 to 5 business days, we will provide you with, all the documents requested from the DSO. So RFEs can ask for different documents from different, um, they may ask for some documents from your employer, but whatever is required from the school, we're happy to provide you with.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, that's a really good point for RFEs. Like students, sometimes they'll ask like, oh, like, how is this like is X school good for RFEs or they support with RFEs? So RFE is actually directed at the individual, not at the school, and it's about your. If the RFE is about your F1, your like time at Sophia, it's going to be about you maintaining your F1 status. So if Sophia is like, if there is documentation, if your RFE has something to do with Sophia, like oh, like maybe your on-site attendance, then Sophia can like provide the documentation that's related specifically to that RFE, but you yourself would be responsible for like responding to the RFE itself, right? And then so that's why I always tell students, no matter where you are, just like keep your own documentation. Let's say if it's of an on-site attendance, you can like save some like airplane tickets or hotel rooms. If you're doing like a longer trip, that would just kind of supplement whatever documentation that Sophia would be providing, because ultimately it is your responsibility. Next question, is there a provision for taking a single term off?
Yes, so F1 students are eligible for an annual vacation. Once you have completed the equivalent of 1 academic year, that's 3 quarters, assuming you've, maintained satisfactory academic progress and passed all your courses, you can take that 4th quarter off as a vacation quarter. So we have specific guidelines on vacation term eligibility in our International Student Handbook.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And what's the max credit hours that students can register for each semester?
So the minimum requirement for MBA and MSCS is 6 credits per quarter. There is really no maximum, but I would say 9 credits will be challenging. 12 credits will be very challenging. These programs do have rigorous academic standards. So, I've seen a lot of students manage to take 9 credits, but 12 might be too challenging. So another thing to remember, if you're enrolling in more than the minimum credit requirement, we still do not permit you to take more than one online course. So if you are taking more than the minimum, you still cannot take more than one online course.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And it's good to hear about like your own personal experience seeing what students can handle. Okay, we already talked about, I guess, okay, maybe this next question has to do with travel. So we already talked about taking time off. What's the travel policy? So like during the course duration, can students, let's say, if they're not during the on-site portion, are they able to travel outside the US?
So if you are traveling, ideally we want you to travel when you are on a vacation term or, during the gaps between quarters. There's typically at least a 2-week gap between, the end of one quarter and the start of the next. But if you have an emergency situation and you need to travel during the quarter, as long as you're not missing any classes and it's a short trip, that may be possible. Now, if you are missing classes, at that point, we may need to put you on maybe an authorized early withdrawal. So it really depends on the dates and then the duration, and most especially whether you'll be missing classes.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. The next question for CPT, can the location of the CPT be like remote, I guess?
Yeah, so with CPT, it's curricular practical training. So it's very important that the student has a supervisor or mentor who's able to, provide them with evaluation of their work. Now, can that happen remotely? Yes, but we would need you to specify the details of how that remote supervision takes place in your CPT application.
Okay, thank you for that. How often are like it sounds like a class attendance can kind of vary based on student schedule, but what would a typical class attendance look like?
Right. So for the MBA and MSCS, there are weekend classes. They would happen at least 3 times per quarter, and each class is it's fairly long. It's around 5 hours per class. So that is if you do the weekend classes. We also now have a weekday night class for MBA students where you can come in for 2.5 hours for 2 days a week for 3 weeks.
Okay,
So approximately 15 hours in person per quarter.
15 hours in person per quarter. Okay, thank you. Then the next question. So a student needs a CPT for June 16th. So should they apply for it at the beginning of the quarter?
So June 16th is a kind of um so our spring quarter ends June 15th. So if you're applying for the summer quarter, you can start that application in the spring quarter. So typically CPT applications should be submitted at least 10 business days prior to your requested start date. So if you're, trying to start June 16th, that would be the summer application, and it would need to be submitted, I would say, at least ideally, 3 weeks before June 16th. And then all students will receive an email with all that information.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Yeah. So again, always just starting things early will like set you up for success later on. Well, so this one I can answer. So yes, we at GoElite, we're hosting this webinar, and we will be sharing. This will be posted on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out there. Um, if I was an F1 and now I'm a TPS holder, does that change anything from the application? Yeah, so I could answer this. Or actually, does Sophia take TPS, like change of status? Because I know, like, I've worked with other students who've changed from TPS to
Yeah,
F1.
that's a great question. It would depend on, is the student concurrently maintaining F1 and TPS, which is possible. Students can maintain both concurrently. If that's the case, we would still treat you like a regular F1 student. Now, if you were an F1 student and you are no longer an F1 student and you only have the TPS, yes, it's still possible for you to enroll. We would need to see certain documents like your USCIS receipt notice. Yeah, so it wouldn't really change the application process. It may change the documents you're required to submit to us.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And so for the student who's saying like they have previously been on F1, but they're no longer on F1 and they changed to TPS and they want to go back to F1, would they still need to do 3 quarters before they get the CPT? Um,
Okay, so that is a more complicated question, changing status from TPS to F1. Yeah, we would really need to, that's a more one-on-one discussion where we would need to see, what was the history. But there are options that we can discuss. So I think that question, I would need to know more about the particular circumstances to respond.
I guess let me jump out to a more general question. If a student has previously been on F1, studied, like done a master's or bachelor's, they're at a different status, whether that's TPS, H1B, L1, whatever, and then they're going back to F1. Even though they're a change of status application, can they start CPT from the first day, or would they need to, because they're change of status, would they still
No,
need?
in all those cases, they would still need a new SEVIS record because even though they were a student at some previous point, that particular SEVIS record would now be either completed or terminated. So they need a new SEVIS record if they want to start on F1, which means they do need to complete that one academic year requirement again.
Okay, understood. Yeah, so just to sum it up for students, actually, I think you did a really good job. If you're starting a new CVIS record, then you'll need to do the 3 quarters. If you're transferring your CVIS, whether that's from like you're transferring from a master's or bachelor's, or you're coming from OPT, then you would not need to do the 3 quarters. All right. Next one, I can answer this. What's the minimum months to do CPT so you can also do OPT? So CPT is divided into full-time and part-time. Full-time here, it's not just 40 hours, it's anything above 20 hours per week. Part-time is 20 hours or less. Now, there's no restriction on the amount of part-time CPT that you can use, but if you're working full-time, so anything more than 20 hours per week, you cannot do that for more than 1 year if you want to keep your OPT. Working for 1 year or longer on CPT full-time, cancels out your eligibility for OPT. Then the last question, if a student takes like a term off, like a quarter off, can they continue working on CPT during that time?
Yeah, so based on our current policy, if you are on a vacation term, but you still want to continue with your work integrated learning course and you enroll in that course, yes, we can approve CPT for your vacation term.
Oh, all right. Thank you for answering all those questions, and thank you both, actually for answering all those questions and the presentation. Really enjoyed doing that with you guys. If anyone watching has any further questions feel about Sofia, feel free to get in touch with the admissions team, or if you just have more general questions about CPT, go and want a consultation with me or one of my teammates, go ahead and scan the QR code on the right for English consultation, or the QR code on the left for Chinese consultation on WeChat. All right. Well, thanks again to both of you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
so
everybody.